Test Drive with Graeme Fletcher.
This week on Test Drive we look at the 1990 Volkswagen Passat. Now the reason we chose the wagon was because it seems most manufacturers are moving away from the wagon format towards the minivan. So we wanted to find out why Volkswagen would buck the trend.
The transmission proved to be the biggest disappointment. Firstly, the shift quality is poor, with the upshifts being uncoordinated and very abrupt. Secondly, in either the sport or normal modes, the transmission had a nasty habit of downshifting while the car was coasting to a stop. Each downshift raised the engine speed noticeably, giving rise to a lot of unwanted engine braking. The engine, on the other hand, is a willing performer. Although the 2-litre 16-valve power plant lacks low-end torque, it does boast good mid and upper range performance, giving the car a superior feel on the highway.
Periodically in the pylon testing you come across a car that just amazes you. You don't expect it to do very well and it just proves you completely wrong, and the Passat certainly qualifies for that. This vehicle sits so flat, so stable, it's incredible.
The leather-covered seats are on the firm side, but do provide superb comfort. A little more lateral support would have been appreciated given the very spirited handling characteristics. The wagon offers an enormous trunk and a great deal of versatility, perfect for those odd jobs. I also like the concertina-style privacy cover. This keeps prying eyes off your valuables. With the seats up, the Passat offers very generous amounts of head and leg room, as well as all the usual safety-related items, including a child seat tether point. The instrument cluster is complete and laid out in typical German fashion. All controls fall readily to hand, and with the exception of the wiper switch, they're very easy to use. The wiper switch houses too many functions, and to the last, I was never quite sure if the rear wash wiper was actually turned off properly. The stereo deserves an honorable mention for its superb sound quality. No wonder it's one of the most sought after by thieves. As you can see, the Passat wagon features a roof rack. A nice idea, but the choice of location for the radio aerial seems somewhat curious.
The Passat is a very well thought out vehicle. For instance, take the key out, you left the window down. They retain the power so you can wind it up without needing to put the key back in and turn the ignition on. The sunlight that always blinds you from above the mirror has been taken care of by its own little flap. Now the thing they didn't do was to hook the radio in to the ignition switch, meaning that the driver must remember to turn the radio off every time he gets out of the car. That's my pet peeve. Now to the scoreboard and see how I rated the 1990 Passat.
Every now and again you come across a real sleeper. The Passat is one such vehicle. Even when pushed to the limit, the car remained flat and unflustered. On the highway, the ride was surprisingly smooth given the very firm nature of the suspension. Another sterling example of just how good anti-lock brakes actually are. The system adopted provides premium performance with little or none of the usual brake pedal pulsation. We managed to achieve stops from 80 kilometers an hour in a very scant 106 feet. Excellent. The Passat's engine could do with a workout. Until you hit 2500 RPM, the performance is lackluster. Above that, the engine starts to breathe and does come into its own. During the acceleration test, the best we managed was a titch under 9 seconds. Aside from the usual engine noise associated with multi-valve engines, the Passat is fairly quiet. Turn up the superb stereo and there's no problem at all. During the road test, we managed to average 10 litres per 100 kilometres or 28 miles per gallon, which given the gusto is not bad at all. Overall, there is an awful lot to like about the Passat, but for me it's too quirky and too expensive. There are unfortunately too many tough competitors already jamming this segment, meaning the Passat will probably end up being known as the poor man's Audi. Unfortunately, the poor man will have to be fairly well heeled.